6 days on, and the fear is that the Ever Given's blocking of the Suez Canal will lead to global shortages of oil, gas and goods. And it's not just what's on the vessel itself, although that's significant given it's one of the largest container ships in the world. But it's what's on the other 300 or so vessels treading water at the entrance and exits of the canal, as well as those stuck in the middle. Syria's already feeling the pinch. The authorities announced fuel rationing as supplies from Iran are stuck.
The news coming out of Syria is deeply, deeply worrying. The country was already hitting crisis point with the economic collapse hitting Syria and the daily lives of Syrians. And now these delays to fuel shipments will make an already bad situation worse.
And as tankers queue, oil prices are rising. The blockage is another blow to global trade already disrupted by COVID-19.
Around about 7% of the world's oil trade goes through the Suez Canal, and it can't. Any ship has the choice of taking the longer route round the south of Africa. Takes around 2 weeks longer, obviously costs more because of the additional shipping costs. So ships are having to make that decision. Do they wait in that queue of 300, or do they take the longer trip?
There are two main strategies in play to dislodge the Ever Given. They are currently using tugboats to push and widen the canal by using diggers on land. At the stern end of the vessel, that seems to be working. The second is lightening the load by removing containers. That's seen as time-consuming, dangerous and untested. Either way, this has never happened in the history of shipping before. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera.
Let's discuss this with Jerry Northwood, who's the chairman of the risk management and security company MAST. He's joining us from Stoke, that's in Hampshire in the UK. Thanks for speaking to us on Al Jazeera. Let's look at the method of lightening the load. That's what the Egyptian president has reportedly ordered preparations for authorities to do. What would such an operation involve?
Well, it's certainly a good idea, I think, to think of all the contingencies and possibilities. Clearly, you need to get a fairly large crane down there, float it down on a barge. I understand there may already be moves afoot to do that. And then also to have some facility in place for taking the containers and removing them to somewhere else. So it's quite a big operation.
So what are the challenges associated with this operation? I mean, what do they need to do to minimize damage, if any damage at all?
Well, I think the main thing to think about here is, exactly where do you want to get the containers off? I mean, if this is about lightening the load around the bow area to free that, then it may just be a relatively small section of the vessel that needs to be cleared. They may need to think about doing it on both sides. It depends on the size of the crane, but obviously one side alone may not be enough. And then the second thing is having the capacity to shift all the containers that they're taking off and put them somewhere else, whether that's back in one of the ports, like Port Said, or have an arrangement to stack them up on the bank of the canal.
Right. And how long would this operation take?
That's a very good question. This is all about resource and the amount that they need to get off. The salvors have a better idea of that. It could take some while.
Well, Canal officials are saying that so far some progress has been made. The rudder was released, and also now there are about 14 tugboats joining the effort to be able to dislodge that ship. But will authorities be continuing with this strategy, or have they, in your opinion, given up on it and now they're looking to lighten the load?
I think what we're hearing is that they're hoping that the high water tonight will be another opportunity to get the vessel off. So a continued program of dredging and using the tugs makes a great deal of sense. But that clearly hasn't worked yet. It's had some benefit, and they've managed to clear the stern, so that's good. But they do need to be thinking about other contingency, and it will take time to get the appropriate machinery in place in terms of cranes and barges if they're going to start removing the cargo in order to try and reduce the draft of the vessel.
Have you ever seen anything like this before? I mean, how would you describe this situation and what's transpired over the past 6 days?
I think we're all finding this as a relatively unique situation. I mean, the canal has been closed in the past. It's been closed for very lengthy periods during the Arab-Israeli wars. But it's the first time for quite a long while where we've had this kind of interruption to traffic. So it's clearly having a very significant impact on the supply chain across the globe. And so the sooner we can get this resolved, the better, and people can get back to normal business.
Jerry Northwood, thank you so much for speaking to us from Meonstoke. Thank you.
Thank you.